Welcome once again to Inside LAFC MVP, the Max and Vince podcast, episode 2 of the rebirth. So we actually have to be good now. We got some good responses after last week. We've got to take it to another level, right? Vince LaRosa, Max Bredos.
From episode 1 to 11.
Yes, all the way up. All the way up. Where do you go from there? Nowhere, exactly.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
We get with our staircase to nowhere
This is
on our set.
decent drive to Burbank today. I had to go back and pick up my water bottle.
Oh, so that's why you were late.
I was a little bit
Yeah,
late.
let
I
me
made
pull
it
back the
down. I
curtain
go,
here a
where's my
little bit.
water bottle? And I
Max
had to go
Bredos,
back.
who's always late. All your former co-stars tell me the same. They're like, yep, the same old Max.
That is not true.
Definitely true.
Yeah. Not my strong point, but I usually get the job done.
It's true. But it does surprise me when you if I'm somewhere and you're already there.
You're terrified.
Yeah, I'm very scared.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you for that. Punctuality is important. So
Max, how was your weekend?
fantastic.
Oh, good.
Obviously, we get to talk about a game, which is really good as part of here. And I took some notes. I was there.
Copious notes. Can you show your notes to the camera? This is
I'd rather not. I do this new thing with a large paper, and I do like little books.
I love your notes because recently professional broadcasters of your ilk love to show how much they use highlighters, and they just meticulously put formations together. They even have like labels. Come on.
As if it's going to go to some museum somewhere.
I mean, I'd love to see. Let's do a coffee table collection book of Arlo White's formations.
It's very meticulous and organized. Mine is not.
Do you think he has a little magnifying glass to look at it? Is it like he's gone so meta that he's like, I got a smallest type, and then just read with the magnifying glass.
But the other thing with like, and I befriended guys like Callum, who calls the games in Minnesota, and we talk. And then the British broadcasters have the
microphone with the little
and they carry it everywhere, and it drives me bananas. I go, just use the one there, because I bring it like a pool cue in The Color of Money, you know.
What I don't understand is they also wear the headset.
Do you remember The Color of Money, the movie with Tom Cruise and?
Well, Paul Newman's one of my favorite actors.
Thank you. So yeah, producer Jason, people do get that reference.
No, but I love. So they wear the headset, which allows you to maybe have a microphone. Which, by the way, I like having two hands free with the way we have everything set up. Why would they then bring themselves to always have to hold up a mic to their face?
Hygiene issues too, I think.
Oh yeah, those mics
must be a spit collector.
Disgusting.
But it sounds great.
Because all those English broadcasters still smoke with pipe.
Yes. So a good weekend, had the game. Sunday, I go for my beach run in Santa Monica. I throw the rugby ball around. It was 90 degrees.
Nice.
It was windy, though, kind of killed it. And the one thing is my bottom of my feet are all burnt now because the sand was so hot. But that's a nice feeling. It means summer's in the air. It's right around the corner.
I was seriously bummed because Sunday was a beautiful day, and I was still recovering from my second shot, which everyone, please go get your vaccination shots, but make sure that you have a couple days off. Because I didn't. Because I did the pregame show.
What are you?
The live pregame show.
What are you? Are you a Pfizer? Are you a Moderna?
Yeah, we're a Pfizer family.
A Pfizer family.
I don't know. Just because Cody and I both got Pfizer, so
I'm Johnson.
I like the sound of Pfizer family.
I'm Johnson & Johnson. We're hard to come by these days.
I know. You've been canceled.
One and done. Blood clots and all. From the great city of Cincinnati, FC Cincinnati, I actually watched the Nashville FC Cincinnati game, if you could believe that, and I was actually entertained.
I mean, it was 2-2.
It was good.
And somehow Cincinnati scored 2 goals within the first 25 minutes. First 20 minutes. That might be their entire output for the next
Did
month.
you watch a fair share of MLS?
I did. I thought it was a really good weekend. It was a fun weekend.
I thought so too.
There was a lot of goals. The funny thing was the games that were like kind of the marquee games, the Columbus and Philly 0-0.
Oh.
The Atlanta Orlando 0-0. It was interesting. The games that I thought there'd be more goals and more. I think the Columbus game was actually still exciting for a 0-0.
The MLS Community Shield.
Yes, MLS Community Shield was exciting for a 0-0. Orlando, Atlanta, not so much.
We'll get to that because there's some interesting storylines developing and people.
Oh, is there something going on around the world?
Yes, because I was watching that Columbus-Philadelphia game and I was like waiting for them to break in with this huge news that sent shockwaves throughout not just the soccer world. It was amazing to see I had my computer there and just looking at the Twitter comments. And everyone caught on. Pat McAfee was like, what does this mean? I actually sent...
The virus guy?
No, not Pat McAfee.
No, I'm kidding.
He's everywhere.
Yeah.
So everyone was paying attention. And college football people going, hey, it's like our sport. But the Super League was announced, and it went from, is it going to happen, to all of a sudden, it's happening. They have They have a website. They have a graphics package.
Oh,
they have a logo.
They have a font.
They have a font and everything. And it's like, here we go. So these 12 teams. I can't call them all super. That's one of the that's the biggest argument I have.
That's a shot at Tottenham.
Tottenham,
as a Hammers fan.
Tottenham, Arsenal, and
well,
how the heck does Milan get into the Super League?
I mean,
don't look at me like that. You look at
Milan still has the second most Champions League trophies.
Yeah,
of
but
any
it's
club.
2021.
I mean, they're basically basing it off of being historically big clubs. They're not saying it's the best clubs right now because where's Leicester?
Atalanta.
Yeah.
You would have to, if you're picking 15 of the best clubs right now, Atalanta would be on that list, correct?
Well, yeah.
That'd be a fun thing. Who would be the actual Super League on form?
Ooh, that would be a fun thing. You should have presented that before we did the rundown. I could have actually spent some time on it. But Atalanta would be there not just for form, but for the way that they do it, right? I mean, the funny thing is the how much everyone's jumped to conclusions on everything. They're like, oh my God, I can't believe this is going to happen. The super clubs.
There's bad information circling out there because people are on the impression we can't these rivalries. The leagues are going to remain. It won't be the same, but the leagues are going to remain.
People keep telling me that every club is going to get $3.5 billion. No, that is the full payout to the 15 clubs that start. So about $350 million each. And those are on bank guarantees.
Walk around money.
Yeah, just a little bit of extra cash in your pocket. The fact that they weren't going to play in their leagues anymore, obviously they're trying to have their cake and eat it too. They know that it would be bad for their domestic leagues for them to break away. But this is just realistically what it is a tier above Champions League with no entry point, basically, with the smallest keyhole for a couple clubs to get in every year. But they want to play domestic football, but the domestic leagues, rightly so, we're like, no, get the F out of here if you're gonna do that. But everyone's jumping to conclusions, and please, I beg of you, MLS people, and myself included, you, Max, and my friends on the 110 Football Show, do not try to angle away that this will be good for MLS. MLS has nothing to do with this. Every windfall that happens in Europe should not fall into MLS's lap because essentially the players are actually getting screwed over in all of this, right?
Who would say, but they say it's good for MLS because people will turn their eyes to MLS
because it has some kind of purity in competition? That's what they're.
I think there's something to that.
That's essentially what, maybe a little bit. But look, players are the ones that are going to get screwed over in this because clubs are going to rake in this money. They're not going to look to pay players more. Part of the reason why they need this money is because they're in the hole for playing players too much. But they'll get, if they do go through with this, they will make a lot of money. Those players
they do go through with it.
Yeah, those players will.
You don't think it's going to happen? You're not 100% sure?
I think it's something in between is going to happen.
Bayern Munich is the one that's kind of would probably change if they say we don't want to be part of it.
I think you
need Bayern in there.
What really changes is the fact that, if players can't play in as soon as Euro 2020 or 2021, whatever you want to call it.
But you're saying that if UEFA blocks those players from going in there, that will never hold up in court. That is a
Why wouldn't
UEFA bring it, and if FIFA's going to do that with the World Cup, you're not going to win that.
But
that's just a waste of time.
It's their competition. They can bar people from their competition.
Good luck. There's no way. They will get their lunch eaten. And I don't know anything about the law. I'm just saying, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Right?
But I'm just saying,
be careful what you do.
So those players are not going to turn around and go, oh, it's a closed structure. Sure, they're paying the best wages, but MLS, I'd love to go there. They seem to really know what they're doing there. Not going to happen. Come on.
To me, I don't like it, but I don't like a lot of things about sports, but you get used to them, and you move along. I didn't like the fact that when I was a kid and I loved Bernie Kosar and the Cleveland Browns, one day they became the Baltimore Ravens. And I was like, I don't have a team anymore.
Bernie Kosar. You brought up Bernie Kosar in
I had to bring him
conversation about the likes of Messi, Mbappe, Neymar. He's like,
Kosar. The greats.
Kosar's fourth name on that list.
So it's been in the works. People have been talking about this for 30 years. And the fact that people are shocked that it's happening, I'm like, where have you been? And some of the comments in particular coming from England about how the game is destroyed. I'm like, look, the Premier League it's a money grab.
Yeah.
The Premier League was a money grab.
The original money grab.
The original money grab.
Yeah. And
then expansion and the Champions League and all these kind of things is all about getting money. Now, this is a whole nother level because it's these clubs moving it. And again, I like things the way they are. That's why we cover the sport. It's kind of perfect, the leagues. We enjoy that.
It's kind of nice. I mean, I wouldn't mind a little change. My biggest thing is, and this is not an original point for me. This is actually from Carl Anka, who does great writing. It's so unimaginative because basically all they're doing is saying we want to be able to control our TV rights and our sponsorship rights. So all football is saying is the only way to make money is to get more money for TV, more money for sponsorship, and the big clubs are saying we deserve more of that pie. That's all they're doing.
They do, though.
Maybe they do, but I'm just saying, could we get more creative on the ways we can make money and pretend? I mean, you pretended through this whole year that you were all about community and about bringing the community together, and then you're like, nope. At the end of the day, we're all about paying our employees, not the players, paying the high level employees and executives to make sure that they get the same salary they get and our shareholders get it by TV money. Okay. I mean, that's what it's always been about. Let's not pretend like that ever changed.
We could be here for an hour talking about this. It's to me the biggest sports story of the year, any sport, and nothing's going to top because at its core, it's what you said. It's these clubs looking out for their interests, which we've never heard of. That they could say we've got it, not the leagues, not the tournaments. We're going to call the shots. So the one thing that I find really interesting is how much in the United Kingdom, where I've heard most of the pushback, the disdain for the Americans who are involved here. And there's a very American feel to it, the way this tournament's it was modeled after the NBA best of 3 series. I'm like, oh, and it made me laugh because I know it's driving people bananas. But, the American influence is here. So don't ignore it. They got the deep pockets, and they're going to form it in what's comfortable to them.
Loving money in sports is not uniquely American.
That's right.
We'll leave it at that.
Yes.
Why don't we talk about some good things?
The game.
LAFC, an opening weekend. Odd in some respects because it wasn't a full stadium, but also oddly beautiful in some ways because you guys were loud. Like, they were still very loud. I was very happy.
That was the first thing I noticed. Yeah. I expected it pretty, it's 4,000, I know, but, maybe when you're not in a full stadium, you don't have that energy through the roof. But the folks in the North End lifted it. That has to be hard work when there's 75% less of you to make it, because sometimes you can defer a little bit with the cheering. You can't. That's your full 90 minutes. But I was actually really blown away how loud it was in there with that.
The acoustics of Bank California Stadium
that goes a long way.
Not to take anything away from those people in the North End and everyone else around the stadium that were loud. They were loud. But getting to not my perch. It's a big area. There's a lot of press in there. But getting to the little perch of the press box and hearing that was it was incredible. I didn't expect it. I just thought it was going to be
a
little bit quiet.
I set a very low bar. I go, it's going to get better. And I was like, I could deal with that. And just look, there's all the things you have to go through. I thought everyone did a wonderful job. It was kind of nice in a way to get in and out of a stadium with relative ease.
Yeah.
Everything, people listened with the parking. It was a well-oiled machine, in and out. All the paperwork you fill out to get in the stadium. Once you were in there, obviously we have restrictions and protocols in place. Once you were in there, with the exception of going to the concession stands, it felt like a pretty normal game day. It wasn't. The folks at Bank of California Stadium trusted the fans, so they weren't on top of them. If someone didn't have their mask on, I'm sure those conversations were held. I had my mask on the whole time. But it wasn't, because that's the feel, too, that in that circumstance, they go, how much are they going to be, for lack of a better word, policing the fan experience? And I thought they were pretty laid back with that, so to speak, trusting. And then that was returned by the supporters.
I mean, there was a good amount of space between areas. I mean, yes, in the sports section, people were slightly closer, but it was nowhere like Miami, where it seemed like everyone was all in that one section. Look, outside, I think we know there's much lower transmission, but please do keep your mask on and keep a little bit of space. It's the areas, the restrooms, the concession stands, which there were no concession stands. You had to get everything at your seat.
Order.
You had to do everything contactless with your phone, which might be the way forward for stadiums anyways. We've been trying to go that way for the longest time, be all within the ecosystem of one app for everything. So maybe that's the way forward. What we have not mentioned yet, which was obviously a big topic, was the TIFO for Mo. The reason why we have not mentioned it yet, because we'll go into deeper detail with Julio Ramos. We'll be interviewing him, talking about that TIFO, which was beautiful, an amazing TIFO, a very large TIFO. I mean, that's probably the biggest TIFO that they've had in the stadium, which was great for Mo. But we'll be talking to Julio Ramos. And
I didn't see. Did I not watch enough? Were there TIFOs in some other stadiums? It didn't seem like they were.
There were not a lot of TIFOs around MLS this weekend.
So it stood out to me. And you wish there was a packed North End, because it gives it that depth with those incredible TIFOs. But still, breathtaking to see that rolled out. And we'll talk about that and some of the things that we saw in tribute to Mo. And I think one thing that we all we all share as part of LAFC is the familiarities with the supporters that we spend time with. But to see it on a national level, and I watched the re-air of the game and Fox referencing him, and the commissioner a while ago also mentioning the loss. That was just it's these are things that you don't see, and it's a testament to the supporters, the 3252, the District 9 Ultras, that they can make this so important. And this man, Mo Fascio, will never be forgotten.
Yep. And we'll talk with Julio more about that, and he'll give us. We want to know more about Mo as a person, so he'll give us more details, so you can learn what kind of person he was, not just the man behind the tifo, not just the VP of the 3252, the guy. And I think that will resonate with people because every time I talk to somebody, they really want to talk about what kind of person he was behind the scenes. Weird segue, but do you want to talk about the game?
Let's talk about the game. We got to go on there, and it's a 3:00 kickoff.
Yep,
That's Bob's favorite.
A little warm.
It
was very nice weather though for football.
It was nice weather, and then you had the Miami LA Galaxy game also at about the same time on national.
That one suffered the most from the weather. Phil Neville and David Beckham. As much as I know that they come from England, and I remember when David was here, he was like, "I wear long sleeves all the time. I don't care what the weather is. I'm wearing a long sleeve kit all the time." And MLS was more than happy to facilitate for them. Adidas was more than happy to facilitate that for him. But him and Phil Neville in white button-down shirts with ties and suits, Miami, my friend. At least give me a white linen suit. Go. It
wasn't bad. I looked at it was 82, but it was obviously a lot of humidity.
It's like 90% humidity.
I don't think our guy Gonzalo Higuain is going to make the summer down there.
Yeah, into what the 60th minute, he had only made one sub. After we were been reminded over and over again on the broadcast, they have planned subs. They don't think that they're fully fit because they had some COVID problems with their preseason. He's going to use subs. And then the team simply runs out of gas. We're not supposed to talk about. Why are we talking about that game?
Would it be harsh if I put Inter Miami 27th out of 27 teams after my Week 1 power rankings? Is that too harsh?
No.
Never mind. I'm doing it.
No. Okay. Yeah. I'm trying to think who was worse.
Everyone's like Vancouver. Well, Vancouver won last night.
Yeah.
But let's go back to the game real quick. And the reason I bring up the afternoon is because one day I'd love to see a primetime network game under the lights where MLS is best.
I agree with you.
But maybe one day. And I think the numbers are going to come out and they're going to be promising. Again, for MLS, it's not going to be mind-blowing, but I think there's progress. The quality of the game there wasn't a lot of other sports competing with it, not even soccer. It was a quiet, with the exception of the Super League, it was a quiet game. I mean, some FA Cup, which I can't even watch FA Cup with an empty stadium, more than any other fixture, and not too many key league fixtures. So they had most of the spotlight. The big game of the weekend, I think, was America Cruz Azul in Liga MX, and then some other stuff going around. But the actual game, let's talk about what we saw. Let me grab my notes.
Yeah, you got copious notes. I want to hear them.
Not copious. I thought we were worried about defensively because we saw in the preseason. They fixed that. They weren't facing a team that obviously had the bit between the teeth looking for goal opportunities. They were kind of sitting back. But LAFC, no Diego Rossi, late scratch, and Carlos Vela early in the game. Now,
let's dive into that.
Hats off to Bob Bradley for handling it with complete and utter honesty and and getting the microphone on and saying that with the Fox crew. That was a breath of fresh air. I thought he was asking for a sub. I was right above him. I saw him do this. I thought it was a sub. You still have to communicate that.
I mean, he went like this, like come over here, which means treat me. I
thought he kind of did one of these.
I mean, the international sign for substitute is this, which is funny because later in the game, Edward Atuesta did that, and they were like, no, go back out there. We don't have any more subs because they'd used up, not all their subs, they'd used up the 3 instances in which they could make substitution.
So let me ask you this. Bob Bradley says it was a mistake, but do you think he was going, if there's anything wrong, I see him rubbing his thigh there, I'm taking him out now, I'm not risking it?
Yeah, when you already have Diego Rossi not in your 18, and then your other player, you're like, uh-oh. Diego could be out. They say that Diego has like a slight knock from training and he shouldn't be out long, but they don't know that he had scans at Bank of California Stadium on his leg, and they said that looked good. But again, muscle injuries are a mystery. They could last weeks. He could be back this weekend, but he doesn't know. So going into it, he's thinking, okay, no Diego Rossi. He's watching Carlos come off. He's watching the fact that his team's kind of playing slow and doesn't really have a spark, and he's thinking, oh no. Can't go through 3 to 4 weeks with this, with new guys having to integrate without my guys that like really glue the team together and have that ability to create a spark. So I see it, but it was bizarre. It was just the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. At that early in the game, you can play 10 men for like a good 5-10 minutes if you needed to, especially when it's Carlos Vela.
And it's Austin. They're not going to go, hey, Carlos Vela's out. Let's go for it.
Yeah, let's hit the accelerator. They were definitely Austin was playing a very not slow, but just methodical.
Yeah, they were to get the ball, look for a foul, which is a good end, but it was a bit of it was a handbrake for sure.
Yeah, they were methodical in their buildup, which, hey, to their point, they didn't just go long. They did like to try to build. But then when LAFC had the ball, it was collapse through the center.
Ooh,
Danny Houston was like an auxiliary extra midfielder, which basically limited him in the attack. I mean, that was, I think, the biggest problem for Austin, at least if they're going to play, when they're playing teams like LAFC, and if that's the way they're going to play, you have a bunch of facilitators other than that. Like, you don't have any strikers. I mean, Rodney Redis might turn out to be a finisher, maybe a Diego Rossi type, but Dominguez, facilitator. Pochettino, facilitator. Ring, facilitator. If Houston has to do all that work on the defensive end, is he?
I think at the top end, you're right. It was a little lack of pizzazz, which is fine. And the big block of players, they were organized, but they just put that big iceberg in front, and you couldn't do much.
Yeah, and once LAFC got anywhere near the 18, at least in the first half, they just went bloop, like 6 guys collapsing, and LAFC's like stumbling over. They're trying to get balls, and they're not quite sharp.
But Mahala comes in. So Masovsky comes in for Rossi. We didn't expect to see either one of those two really in this featured role, and they did. And they got back into a rhythm, and they unlocked that defense with some regularity. And there was about a stretch from like minute 48 to minute 65 where they were just pouring it on.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is really good. But you got to get a goal. Corey Baird was the holdover of the attack, and he looked as comfortable in that system as anyone I've seen in recent years, other than Rossi and Vela, who kind of do it. But without Rossi and Vela, you figure this kind of comes off the rails a bit. It didn't. It looked like the system that is instilled by Bob Bradley, and they had guys there that had the keys and could pull it off.
Well, since we're fully into this match, let's just go to the takeaway segment. If we had a cool graphic right now, this would be the time. With noises like pew, pew, pew. But for those that maybe remember, hopefully people still remember that I worked for the club. I say it enough. When I worked for the club, we used to do a great thing after every match, and I did my best to get it out right after the match, meaning I used to work till like 2 or 3 in the morning, it was still fun. You're always amped from the game. I can't go to sleep anyways. And I would do takeaways, and normally we did 5. I remember one time Lou Wynn asked me, why do you do 5? And I said, I don't know. It just seemed like the right number. He's like, yeah, 3's too few. 4's weird. And I was like, yeah, 5. So thanks.
What's wrong with 3?
Thanks, Lee Wynn. I don't know. He said too few, but 3 is what we're going to do now. Because
I'm glad you vetted that out with him.
Yeah, if I had to talk through 5, that'd be too much. But I
read it every
takeaways.
week with a 5, and I would usually lift your information and repurpose it like it came from my mouth.
I will say the amount of people that have told me they miss takeaways warms my heart. So if you miss takeaways in written version, guess what? We're going to do it on the podcast now. So my takeaway number 1 was number 1 goalkeeper.
Pablo Cisniega.
And
the bombshell we got a day earlier that Kenneth Vermeer and the club were parting ways, which we don't know we don't pry. I don't want to break stories. It's not what I'm here. You don't want to break stories. But you look at it and you immediately say, there must have been a conversation. Say, we're going to start Pablo Cisniega, and he's going to be the number 1. You said like the 2 goalkeeper situation. At some point, you got to kind of claim somebody.
And when one of them is an international goalkeeper. International spots are going to be even more at a premium. That market is weird now. People are paying out the nose for it. And on top of it, going forward, so for people that don't know, the MLS, classic MLS, put out their rules and regulations for the whole season, like 2 days before the season's about to start. One of the biggest changes is you need to get your green card before the end of this secondary window. And then going forward, players will have to have their green card before the start of the season. So no more, this guy was international, now he's not. No more, which I kind of like. It's like, get your business done beforehand. But that put LAFC in a bind. But I think they were always kind of wondering, like, I don't always attribute go with this saying, but when you have 2 goalkeepers, you don't really even have 1.
When you have 2 goalkeepers, you don't have 1.
But Pablo,
let's rate his. He wasn't facing a ton of shots.
No, but
the distribution was pretty good, I thought.
So Pablo,
not good. It was like a lot of long balls, which is a bit
Well, no, so that was smart of him, right? What I saw from Pablo in his distribution was he would see options and then go, okay, that guy's there, and then by the time he's making the decision, it's too late, and he's maybe distributing. So this time he was like, okay, there's my
Wow,
first
that's
option.
next level right there, La Rosa.
Well, he would look, you could see him.
Did
He's
you have
like,
a shock? Do you have a timer?
Yeah, I do. Like
One.
a release clock, like NFL coaches.
You're like Bill Belichick, man. You can't look off that third guy.
This guy, like I don't do my homework.
That's
No, but if you look, rewatch the game, look at him. He kind of looks. One option, no, go long, just be done with it. And I'm fine with that for now. Obviously, in the grander scheme of things, you want a goalkeeper that can distribute a little more. What I did think he was good at, not distribution, but being aggressive, coming out of the box.
Yes.
There was
Punched
a
couple ones that were
punched a couple. There was a few where guys tried to play back to him and they maybe left it a little short, which happens, to start a season. But he was at the ready, and then he did what he does when it comes to shots. He was in the right position, and in the 89th minute, he made a save that it would have been 1-1. And then he got even beyond that, when it was 2-0, there was still another save to be made. He preserved the clean sheet. That's great for Pablo. Great for the defense. Like, it's just a good foundation to build on. So I think
getting a shutout. It's a result, but I mean that it must be good for goalies. And you're like, all right, you get the credit for that. You get the clean sheet, and then that's a good stat. It's a highly rated stat when you're researching games and you're talking about goalkeepers. You first think how many shutouts has he had? Okay, 5. And you mentioned that usually in a broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
So that's important. I know he was asked questions about the Kenneth Vermeer situation, and we always knew that when we talked about what's it like having you two, he really embraced the situation.
They were friendly. He's not immune to the situation. Two lovely
guys.
Yeah, he's not immune to know.
But you don't want in a goalkeeper. You don't want lovely, right?
No, yeah, I want to be a little mean. Pablo's just so nice. He is a great guy. But yeah, he wouldn't have been immune to the situation and would have known that, now that Kenneth's gone, oh wow. Rightly or wrongly, the spotlight's even more so on me, and he stepped up to the challenge. So that's takeaway number 1. Takeaway number 2, you kind of got into it. Corey Baird. The new guy, basically, provides a spark. And you were right. At halftime, that must have been a hell of a halftime speech because they came out. I thought Corey Baird was everywhere. Like, every time I looked up, he was pressing on the left. He's pressing on the right. They pressed them for that, like you said, that kind of 48 to 65th minute, just like crazy. And I mentioned, because Jason was sitting with me, our producer.
Team MVP after week 1.
Yeah, man of the match. Well, it's between him and Pablo. Jason was sitting with me.
And no Edward?
Edward was okay.
What are you talking about? He was just like he always does, pulls those strings.
Yeah, but did you see any great, like, really killer passes? He played a few good long balls, pressed a little bit. I thought he was okay. Look, it's a high bar for me with Edward.
Apparently so.
But can I get out my point about what I was going to say?
No.
I said to Jason? What I said to
Jason
about
Latif?
In the first half, Latif was very good. What I said to Jason in the first half was that Austin is just playing through LAFC like it doesn't matter. And yes, they weren't able to. Once it's funny, Austin would play through LAFC, play through the press, way too easy. I saw Danny Musovski kind of lost in the areas he was trying to press. The midfield was a little bit farther back than they probably should have been. They would get to
Danny was taking it very deep, and he was never going to be a threat for a cross or anything.
But Austin would
deep.
Austin would play so easily through LAFC, get to the final third, and then go.
Oh, what now?
Now what? So the defense held strong, which was your point. But then in the second half, it was like, okay, no more of that, Austin. You've had enough fun. And they basically kept the ball in Austin's half, almost in Austin's defensive third for a good 20 minutes. And like I said, Corey Baird was a big part of that. And so it was kind of nice that he kind of capped it off with that goal that basically
a seeing eyeball that kind of just got through there,
Yes.
which they needed because at that point I was saying, all right, you're getting a lot of chances. You gotta score here.
You know as well as I do that they probably could have only kept that up for as long as they did until they got the goal.
It felt that way. It felt like this is the window. It's starting to close. You can't have 7-8 chances and not score the goal. So it did it. And I don't know if he caught it completely clean because he hit it from distance, but he went in. And we're going to talk about Mo later. But one of the things that I maybe the lasting impression I will get, a player who's just joined the club, and they gave those armbands with Mo's name on it, pointed to it and to the fans, and raised his arm in tribute of Mo. And I thought that is just rare stuff. That's the really good stuff.
I mean, and that's a credit.
Endears yourself to that fan base very quickly.
That's a credit to Corey, who I've gotten the chance to speak to him a little bit, and he gets it. Like, he understands he's coming into a new situation and he wants to quickly integrate himself and be a part of something. But also credit to the club, right? You got guys like Jordan Harvey in that locker room who probably kind of let him know, like, this is kind of how we do things. It's not just a little bit different. It's a lot different than probably how he did things at RSL. So credit to Corey for taking that on board and running with it, living what he's preaching. But also, I think the club, when they bring new guys in, they really try to.
They say the fans, that's a big part of what we do, and they'll be there for you, so we got to be there for them. And that's kind of what emerged. But he was relentless. We talked about the depth as well, and I think everyone that came in provided a spark, provided an impact off the bench. Sifu obviously scoring the goal a little bit later, aided by Mahala.
Yeah.
This is a good feeling. When you have those two guys out and to have that performance, that's great news.
Yeah. Well, that dovetails in the last takeaway.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Takeaway,
let me see the last takeaway.
Which was about playing fast. When LAFC played fast, when they played in transition especially, they were dangerous. And that's such a weapon for LAFC. I know that Bob has been talking a lot about passes, about controlling games, about having that bar between control and when you go fast. LAFC came out, and Bob said it after the game. It was like, first 10 minutes, I thought we were okay. Then they kind of just settled into the speed of the game that Austin wanted to play. You can't do that. They just were collapsing on them. So that second half, to turn it up, to switch it up, play quick, hit the accelerator. Yeah, I'm driving the bus, all this stuff. They need to know, and that's a high IQ of a smart team. It's like, okay, we're not gonna just pass through this team. Look, we've got the horses. Let's just go out there and let's just race past them. They have the skill to do that, and I think that was the second half. That was the story of the second half. Play fast, play in transition. Doesn't need to all be pretty. Let's just get on top of them and get some chances from 30 yards and in.
And it felt like you watch so many games this weekend, and there's still fitness issues and rhythm issues, but it felt like they were further along than a lot of clubs in how they wanted to play, certainly how they did that second half. It was a pace. The paddock out there, Bank of California Stadium, looked fast, and it looked glorious, by the way. So the crew, once again, knocking it out of the park, Gio and all those guys.
Is a paddock a hockey reference?
No, paddock is like
I don't know.
stable.
I thought maybe you were going.
It's got grass.
I thought maybe you were doubling down on your.
No more hockey, okay? Okay, we got Imad all upset because I said hockey was a dead-end sport. I obviously didn't mean that.
Paul
I was saying that to Jason Carapesi, who's a huge New Jersey Devils fan. Whatever, Penguins, I don't know, but Rangers, New York Rangers.
Yeah, no one's a Devils fan. Just Marty Brodeur, one guy. There's your hockey talk.
I had a hockey
There's
team,
your hockey talk, hockey people. I said Marty Brodeur.
If I had a hockey team, it's the Florida Panthers who are doing great, but that's what's the hometown team.
Should we do some, like, at least 30 seconds on hockey every week?
No.
Oh, but we'd be so different from all the rest of the soccer podcasts.
It's not me, Yeah. It's not me.
I mean, we're already different enough. Look at us.
So that was good. The pace was there for all to see, and you can only imagine better.
Those are my 3 takeaways.
And Carlos looks great. And in the preseason, he looked.
Carlos looked great for 20 minutes.
I was glad he wasn't rubbing his knee. He was rubbing up here on the quad.
Yeah, I think it was like a Charlie horse.
Yeah.
More than anything.
And then Diego Rossi looked great in preseason. He couldn't play, but you expect those guys to fit right in here. But to get that from Mahala, Masovsky, I know maybe not the role that he's most comfortable playing. He was running. He was connecting dots. Look at you knocking your head.
Danny, Danny he was put in a tough spot. He probably wasn't expecting to start. To your point, yes, he was trying to close spaces from too far away. A couple times he was caught in possession where he was like, his body shape wasn't right. Didn't realize there was a guy behind him. But it's early.
Yes.
It's early. I saw Danny though in preseason games where he looked really good. So yeah, maybe you're right. He wasn't in the spots that he normally wants to find himself in.
I'm waiting for Cheeky to finally get that cross that we're going to go, because he's getting behind the defense.
Mm-hmm.
He's very active. They use him a lot moving forward.
He's on the precipice, right?
It's going to come. It was this perfect ball.
Mm-hmm.
Danny Masovsky's going to head it in.
Yeah,
be off and running.
The defender, the backline was all pretty solid. I mean, Cheeky had a little bit of this through the game, but for the most part, his floor in that game was very high, so it wasn't like it was ever bad. I thought Tristan was very good in dealing with Dominguez on that side, because Dominguez was pretty active. There goes our logo for a second. I don't know. It's probably only.
Do we start the podcast at the beginning?
It's probably telling us that we've been long-winded.
We are.
And we're going too long. So maybe we should wrap this. I think we've put a bow on it.
Okay, we put a bow. Anything about MLS? Is it okay to feel good for Chicharito?
I mean, okay. His first goal, very Chicharito.
Vintage Chicharito.
The second goal,
Goalie.
the goalkeeper, he looked like a paper bag in the wind.
Yeah, but I think even as an LAC fan, you hear what he said afterwards, and then to have that bond with his grandfather. His grandfather was a Mexican international great footballer, and to see that and miss me, I don't know how you could not be a little bit affected by it. It was. It's good to see someone have a cathartic moment like that after the season.
I will say this, yes. It is good to hear athletes speak their true emotions and give not a stock. Before the game, he gave a very stock interview. How many goals are you going to score? Oh, it's just about trophies and championships. And I was like, that sounds about right. I mean, what do you expect him to say before a game?
Yeah,
but after the game, he laid it all out there on the line, and I do appreciate that.
But
Max,
real quick.
We're talking too much Galaxy.
But let me talk about, isn't it important you want the Galaxy to do well, so when we play them, it's going to be a big event?
It's going to be a big event no matter what.
But it's going to be even bigger if, say, it's like first and third in the West.
When Liverpool and Everton play, it's always a big event no matter where Everton is in the table, right?
It's always bigger if they're higher up.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. But Inter Miami, I thought was funny because we've been fed a bill of goods for them over and over again. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Well, you and I both said stop talking and
Phil
start
Neville,
doing things.
I have it on my phone. I had to record it off the TV. He goes, this is the biggest fixture of the weekend. 2 titans of Major League Soccer. I'm like, what? Those weren't his exact words, but that's what the point he was going to cross. People are excited about in the United Kingdom. My family's talking out about these 2 teams who are at the top part of no.
Really, I saw Gary Neville over the weekend on TV and made zero mention of his brother.
They had a bigger fish to fry.
Oh, right, Super League. Back to the front.
League.
Well, should we talk just a second about who we got to face next week? Because they had a pretty good match themselves.
Shorthanded.
You want to talk about a team that looked all out of sorts in the first half. I mean, LAFC didn't look super out of sorts, but Seattle was garbage in that first half and was lucky to not concede to Minnesota, who actually looked pretty good, and then totally flipped the script and just boat raced Minnesota in the second half. 4-0. You worried at all?
Minnesota's... I mean, and I saw their striker, and then it was a false 9, Robin Lod. And I was like, what happened to all the options?
Can you say that name again?
Robin Lod.
Ugh. Say Kraftwerk.
Kraftwerk.
Yeah, see, you got it down.
I am the operator with my pocket calculator.
You and your krautrock.
I love Kraftwerk. The creators of rap, by the way.
Yes.
Forefathers. If you ask Dr. Dre.
Okay. How many times do you think you've said that on this podcast?
I want people to register how important Kraftwerk is.
I feel like Max's greatest hits are Dr. Dre inspired by Kraftwerk. I feel like that's in your top 5.
I can't do that. I have to pay Kraftwerk. But I'm okay. You got your checkbook. We're going to pay him for royalties for me humming their song.
No, don't put that on the 110 bill. That's an LAFC receipt.
So, Seattle, I still think LAFC looked better. I mean, they just exploded in that second half. But I thought LAFC, with the rhythm they had, looked a little bit better. In Seattle, no Lodeiro, obviously no Jordan Morris. They may do with these guys. I mean, who's the guy playing for it? The name escapes me.
Raul
not Rui Diaz.
Oh, Will Bruin.
Will Bruin.
Generic white guy.
He's still plugging away.
Yeah,
making a living for a good team.
He does the yeoman's work. He's a hard-nosed guy and allows Rui Diaz to just kind of pick his spots and finish. João Paulo is just a heck of a player. Like that's when you really nail a DP, right? A guy that runs the show. He feels that team. He paces that team. That goal, the Paul Marie goal in the San Jose game, just a shot from 25 yards. Yeah, it had a little bend to it. Didn't even go top corner, and everyone's like, that's a goal of the year contender. I was like, okay, we're a little too ahead of ourselves. And then João Paulo drops that one. I go, okay, for a first match, now that might actually be goal of the year contender.
What about Chofis if you were watching that San Jose game?
What about him?
Who ate all the pies,
yeah,
mate?
Did he go to Whataburger before the game in Houston?
He looked
heavy.
Heavy
legs.
In the figurative sense. It was just like the steps.
Yeah, no, heavy legs, like just no touch.
Listen, some of the fitness things, it's when you see these players, you just got to put your head down. I saw it with Chofis. I saw it with Higuain. And I'm like, why aren't you in shape? We've had the longest off season ever.
Yeah, I feel fitter than some of these
I did
star
too.
names.
I did too. So anyway, it's It's an interesting situation. Maybe everyone not being in shape allowed to have such an entertaining opening weekend with plenty of goals, and we're off and running. And week 2 is going to be. This is a big game, LAFC, as you can see, because our LAFC broadcasts with Mark Rogandino and Bernard and Yuli, we don't have a game for another 6 weeks because the national media just loves LAFC.
They do.
And they're
Well,
Univision, Fox, ESPN, ABC.
And they love games at Bank of California Stadium.
Yes, they do. Imagine that.
That's my other takeaway against, or not takeaway yet because we haven't played them. But the other thing I'm looking.
Wait, is this a bonus takeaway?
No, with Seattle. So
is it 6 takeaways?
If we had to go to Seattle after Seattle won 4-0, I might be a little weary. But other than that Western Conference Championship game, I like playing Seattle at our place. I like just the carpet there. I hate it. I hate that it's a football stadium. I just feel like LAFC has such an advantage when they can play the way they want to play on a nice surface.
What's that stadium called now? It's a CenturyLink.
Lumen Field.
It's hard to keep up with all of this. What was it before CenturyLink? It was, you remember? Never mind.
Seahawks Stadium?
So, no, it was something else. So we would obviously I would like to go to Seattle this week because you would like to push back these home games as far as
so
you
we
can,
could
so you can
have
get
full
more
capacity.
fans.
That'd be nice.
And that's the problem with having these 2 home games here early on. But we'll make sure. And I'm sure we'll hear stuff from the club about when the next push for more fans happens. And I think we should also mention, there's a lot of people disappointed they didn't make the list to come in here. Be patient.
I would just like to point out, Max and I have nothing to do with that.
Yes.
We have no say in that. I know people have reached out to me. How does this happen? I can't believe it. I will say, I do know a few people on that sales team still. It's not easy work. So they're trying their best. They're trying to be as transparent as they can, but trust me, this is a moving target. It seemed like every other day, California, the state and city health officials were in the stadium to double check things. Everything was moving. Things were changing at times. They're doing their best. I know for some people that's not enough, and I understand your frustration. I would want to come back too. I said on the virtual tailgate, it had been 406 days since LAFC had a competitive match with fans in it. That's way too long.
That's a long time.
That's 400. That's over a year. But they're doing what they can.
Right. I do have a say in who came in there, so I actually picked the names. And
would you like to give out your email address?
I'm just kidding. But it's a tough gig. They want everyone to get there, and there's news. Again, it's a moving target, as you said. It's changing all the time about when that can be expanded. But the club, I think, was really smart about, okay, let's walk before we can run, and don't put too much on the shoulders. It's a tough job. I was there and seeing everyone working security. Paul, I didn't even want to say hi to Paul because he had his hands full of time. So I was like, hey, Paul, how's it going?
And he doesn't like you.
No, he does. He loves me. He texts me all the time.
To say,
team
hey,
security, Paul.
To say, hey, I don't like you.
Yes. So
head of team security.
There's a lot of whatever. There's a lot of stuff going on there, and everyone did a great job, and it's going to continue going through.
Do you want me to share for you what everyone's probably been really waiting for?
Yes.
Quest Field.
That's it. Thank you.
All right. Well, take it. I think we've talked enough. LAFC, take us out of this to the next segment.
Thank you. That's kind of wagging the dog right there, huh?
Pulling back the curtain.
We had an incredible visual with the TIFO tribute to Mo Fascio. We're going to be joined by Julio Ramos and Chiva Mayor, one of the big supporters, one of the capo leaders many times there. And we'll talk about Mo. We'll talk about his influence, why he was such a great guy and why he'll be missed so much, and what's going to be done to remember him moving forward within the 32-52. This is Inside LAFC, a.k.a. the Max and Vince podcast, a.k.a. MVP, a.k.a. I didn't have my hands on that list. Last month, the LAFC family lost one of its pillars to COVID, Mo Fascio, who is part of the 32-52, the District 9 Ultras, and just a man you would see everywhere with the club and in meetings, important functions. He has been missed incredibly, and we saw that in the game, the season opener against Austin FC. We're now going to bring in a man you all know, Chiva Mayor, Julio Ramos, also a District 9 Ultra, and I know this has obviously been a very difficult time, Julio, but your reaction to coming back and seeing everything that we were able to see with the tributes to Mo.
First of all, how are you doing, guys? Thank you for having me. It was. I'm gonna talk from my own personal experience. For me, it was like the hardest. It was one of the days I didn't want to get to the stadium. It was so hard for me to go back, knowing that we were gonna be missing people besides obviously the people that were not able to go in because of obvious reasons. But not seeing my father in the stands, not seeing Mauricio in the stands was very very difficult, very difficult. It was a bittersweet moment because it's for us the supporters, being able to be in the stands supporting your team is it's a medicine that cures your soul, and it was very necessary for us to go back, especially after all of this that we have been through around the world, and especially in our world. Um, I was amazed and I was very happy to see how much love there is for Mauricio. Um, it was just like an incredible day. Unfortunately, for the wrong reasons. That's the way I see it.
Julio, I know that you're thankful that Mauricio's name is now being heard by a lot more people, and a lot of people uh, out of this know who he is and what he's done for the club. But you were very close to him. Obviously, you guys are pillars of the community that started before there was a stadium, before there was players, before there was colors. But can you describe a little bit what Mo was like as a person, what it was like to hang out with him? Maybe who were his favorite players. What I want to learn a little bit more about him as a guy and someone that you got to hang out with for long periods of time.
I'm laughing because Mauricio was the kind of guy that he will be serious when he had to be serious, but honestly, he was always cracking jokes, man. Even at the worst times, like he was a person that was always funny, but he always had the right words at the right time. Um, Being around him, you were never gonna be bored. There was always something to talk about. He knew a lot about everything, and such an incredible human being, man. Um, and I can say this without a doubt. He changed a lot of people's lives. Being around Mauricio was for the people that had the privilege of spending time with him. We had some magical moments with him, man. You know, this guy had always had something positive to say, even if it was the most negative thing. He will always turn it around and find a way to find something positive out of it. And speaking about the players, of course, we're hinchas, man. We're ultras. Sometimes we would talk smack, that we would get mad at some players and talk bad about them. But we love the team. We love the team regardless. It's like when you fight with your brother or whatever, you kind of tell them how you feel, but then you just stop loving them. So Mauricio's favorite player, I would say, Latif was one of them. Because Latif is a super humble player, and we will always talk about Latif, how he was, how he deserves more, and how he was always there for the fans. So that's kind of like a little bit what I can say about Mauricio on a personal level.
The few times I got to spend time with him, I felt like I knew him for much longer than that. And some of the meetings for the 3252, he he learned everyone's name. He greeted everyone. If someone wasn't included, he would include them. Just all the traits you want to see from a leader, which he was as the vice president of the 3252, and as an ambassador for the club. You couldn't ask for anyone better. And we're gonna miss him. And I know when this all started, creating a fan base and a supporter culture. Uh, you didn't think that it was going to be for situations like this, but tell us how that it comes about when you have created this foundation of supporters that when we have to suffer loss like this, that you guys are able to move. And what is that support system like, and how quickly were you able to come up with a plan to pay tribute to Mo?
You know what? We are very fortunate to be part of LAFC. Part of this club. I can guarantee you that not too many teams in the world will be open for something like this. Because it's for me it was not that hard. Being able to reach out to the players, have them, you know, send a video for Mauricio that I made a video for Mauricio from most of the players, including you, Max, and Larry and Rich. It wasn't hard, and being able to have that direct communication with the club, with the ownership, with the players. It just tells you how important we are to them, and how really shoulder to shoulder we are. And I think that yesterday was, I mean, Saturday was the perfect example of it. You know, we all came together, like you said, really fast to honor him the best way possible. And it's not gonna end there. There's more things coming up to honor not just Mauricio, but the rest of the people that are no longer with us, due to all the situation this past year. And it's just incredible, man. I feel very proud of my club, and I feel very proud of believing in this project since day one, just like Mauricio did. And this is something that he deserved it, and it was so magical, man. There's some things that happened in that stadium
Mm.
that were beautiful, that maybe people will probably never understand. Like I had a and sorry to change the subject a little bit, but I had one of the security guards in the stadium. He sent me a message and he told me, listen, Julio, you're not gonna believe this, but there was a beautiful butterfly that flew and because we put a picture of Mauricio right when where he was always standing, welcoming everybody to section 105. So the butterfly went into the his picture, and it was in the picture for for almost a minute, and the guy couldn't take a picture. So I told this story to one of my
Mm.
friends, and she starts crying, and she tells me, you know what? That same butterfly was flying and stopped right in front of um, Lorena, which is one of Mauricio's friends, and she was next to Ana, which is Mauricio's wife. So he was definitely there with us, and overall, it's been magical. The club has been amazing. Those armbands to honor Mauricio. It's just I have no words to describe how happy and proud I feel uh, for being part of this amazing family.
And part of that direct connection that you bring up, one of the things that I stressed when we talked about it on the pregame, the virtual tailgate, was, this is a moment in time, but Mauricio will always still be here as long as they're supporters of this club, because his fingerprints are all over everything. And you talked about that direct connection. I know you told us, you haven't even had a chance to rewatch the game yet. And for those that don't know, people like Julio and the Capos, they're working on game day.
They're facing the supporters.
They're facing the
Yeah, in
supporters.
the North End.
They're bringing the energy. They're working like the players are working. But I'm sure you got to see Corey Baird when he scored his goal. And for you, what does that mean that a player, a new player, has so quickly kind of picked up the culture and seen what you guys bring? And he really kind of tipped his cap not only to you guys but to Mauricio. And he's been here, what, 4 months? What did that mean to you?
Dude, I'm getting chills just listening to you because it means the world for us as supporters having a recognition like that from a player, understanding how big Mauricio was and what he meant to all of us. Man, I am forever grateful with Barry, 'cause the way he celebrated, and him and Latif, Latif going and getting the picture and taking it around the stadium and taking it to the locker room so that picture could be on the pictures they always taken inside the locker room was beautiful moments, man. It's something like you said. It's a guy that was been here for 4 months, and he already understands, how important we the supporters are and the fans in general. So that's again, you don't see that in many clubs around the world.
At one point we all go, and there's that belief that there's the hope that when that happens, that you'll be remembered by your loved ones, and then even more so by an extended group of people that you may not have known so well. And I see that with Mo and the Tifo, and you mentioned it too, Julio, about remembering him, and that's obviously got to be really important for you because and when I remember it, I never celebrated Dia de los Muertos, and I started recently because I go, let's remember those that we've lost and do it on a regular basis, and you do that with your friends and your family. But uh, what are you going to do? What do you think some of those members of the District 9 Ultras and the 3252 are going to do to keep Mo's memory alive and well within the club?
Uh, One thing that we talk about within the couples and within the 3252 is Mauricio's favorite number was number 9. So that chant that we did for him, we are gonna do it every game at the 9th minute. To honor him and to keep him alive, and more than that, we're gonna work through he was a community person, so there's so many projects coming on that we're gonna be helping the family, because obviously everything that we do and his name is gonna be with the approval of the family. um, and we're gonna work hard to continue his legacy, basically, because it's a legacy. Like, being on his memorial last weekend, and listening to people that I had no idea that yeah, I never met before, and listening to them, how what they were talking about Mauricio. I think that we basically all agree on one thing, that Mauricio was just an incredible person that deserves to be remembered. As long as I'm alive, I'm gonna make sure that his memory is always there. So I think, like, just like me, there's a lot of supporters, including people within the club, that are gonna make sure that legacy continues somewhere or the other.
Well, Julio, I want to thank you. When Max and I were putting the podcast together, we were thinking about what we can do, and obviously the tribute was so monumental, and the celebration was. It was just. It was. It's hard to put into words when you see a tifo like that, and you see how important that was, and everything just funneled into that moment right before the game, and then everything kind of the whole lens of the game was then seen through that moment with Corey and Latif at the end. So I want to thank you for you're taking time out of your work day to come to join us. So I appreciate that. I just want to ask you before you leave us. You had shared with us the artist name that helped you with that, and I said to you, it was like looking at a photograph.
It's a beautiful piece of work.
It was an amazing piece of work, that tifo. Could you share with us just the artist name and a little bit of what went into making that tifo? Because not only was it a spitting image, it was humongous, which just went to show the stature of Mo in this club.
Yeah, I met the artist is Robert Vargas. His Instagram account is the Robert Vargas. He's an amazing local artist from Boyle Heights. Like, if you go check out his Instagram, like, you're gonna see what like the kind of artwork that he does. He's not just an amazing artist; he's an amazing human being, man. Like, I met him he was doing a mural for the Mexico jersey, and right away we clicked, man. I feel like I've know him forever. So that's we started talking, and that's when Mauricio was still in the hospital. And then the day he passed, I talked to him, and I told him, listen, man, this guy, meant a lot to us, and it would be very cool if you can help us with the tifo, to at least do his face. He did me a sketch of his face in less than 3 minutes with soya sauce. And dude, I'll send you guys the video later. But so, him saying yes, it's just it was very nice of him to be part of this. And as you all can see, like, his artwork was very beautiful. And then also credit to Gil and all the people that was behind the tifo. We, as District 9 Ultras, are very thankful with the 3252 for not even thinking about it twice, and say, you know what, the tifo is gonna be Mauricio, period. And that tells you of, like I said, like, when we work shoulder to shoulder, that's exactly it. Um, but yeah, Robert Vargas, he's a man, and I want to thank him publicly for being part of this, for participating with the tifo. And he did it with because of the love for for what he saw, and the story that we told him about Mauricio without even knowing him. So it was very, very beautiful.
Julio, I know we all wish he was here, but I know he's got to be smiling, seeing all the love and effort you guys are doing to remember him and to continue to remember him. It's important work, and I can speak on my behalf, and I'm sure Vince would agree. It makes us all feel whole with this club, that this is how, if you're a member of it, this is how you're going to be treated. And something I've never really encountered. I've never seen a tifo for a supporter. So congratulations on all you do, and for all the love and the strength that you give, not just the supporters, but the people who work for the club.
Thank you. And I just want to mention one thing. I know there's a lot of people asking how they can help Mauricio's family, and how they can do some funds or whatever. So right now, um, the family is gonna let us know when and how they need the help, and this help is gonna be to do community events, or to help the community. Um, So please, if you guys see anybody selling any merchandise, anything that has to do with Mauricio, and that is not through the District 9 Ultras, please report it to us because it has not been approved by the family, and they're just capitalizing on something that they shouldn't.
And that's been happening, correct? You've seen some of his likeness
They,
on.
yeah, there's some people that try, but thank God after we talked to them and we told them that without the approval of the family, they should not release it. They stopped, and so far it's been they've been respectful of it, and that's pretty cool. We really appreciate that. And just one last thing, one thing that Mauricio was always very passionate about is making sure that us as LAFC, we're always united to reach the goal that is to be the best, not just in the MLS, but to be one of the best supporters in the world. And I think that this should help us to be more united when it comes to the fans and make it happen. One day, one of our dreams that we always talk about was one day we want to see the entire Bank of California doing the chants for LAFC, and we will make that happen.
Very little doubt, with all the work you guys have done, that all the goals you want to hit, you're going to reach. Julio Ramos, Chiva Mayor, thanks for joining us here on Inside LAFC MVP Pod. And we'll all take moments to remember Mo every time we're at the game. And we'll be back next week as we will recap the Seattle game as well. Please subscribe, rate, give us a review. We are here for you guys, and we'll see you then.
Love you guys. Have a good day. Thank you.
Thanks, Julio.